My name is Natasha Guadalupe. I'm a little nervous, so bear with me. Um, yeah, it's a safe space, right? Okay, good. um, so I'm just speaking into the mic, not to project, because they're capturing this on film so that other people can have access that wasn't able to join us today. Okay. Um, we have a lot to get into because when Matt first approached me about this, he says it was open to everybody. And so everybody means, oh my God, so how many things I have to cover? And I've been doing this probably like around almost 15 years now. So my mind is full of a lot of information. So I have a lot of slides, and we don't have to spend a lot of time on each one of them. But I would like to at least give everybody an opportunity to get a basic understanding about fundraising and development. So you kind of walk out of here with some basics, and then you could do a little bit of research and use some of the resources that I put on the slides that you'll have access to. Okay? Um, I want to first tell a little bit about myself, and then I really want to know who's here, because I'm glad that you guys came out on a Saturday morning over here, and get a feel for, have you done any fundraising before? What kind of background do you have, and what brings you here? What are you trying to get out of coming to this workshop today? So first, let me just say a little bit about myself. So I've been living in Harlem for like 18 years. Just got kicked out of it. I'm back in the Bronx right now. So I love New York City. I love Harlem. I want to come back, but you know, it's a little expensive. um, but I love my boogie down as well. My fundraising actually started in the Bronx. I was fresh out of college. I have a psych degree. And so, you know, with all of your degrees, you know, you obviously go into the work world doing exactly what you studied. Not all the time. So here I am with fundraising, and I have a psych background, right? So nonetheless, I'm fresh out of college, super excited, my first job. I was working on 149th Street and 3rd Avenue, and I started very small. I was actually a bereavement counselor in an HIV and AIDS program. So my job was to help recruit clients that were part of our program to come in for a support group and gain support for going through their illness, and to talk about very serious issues, obviously, like funeral arrangements, standby guardianships, what their legal rights are, their benefits, just a safe space for them to kind of collaborate, talk, and gain support from one another. And so I was a guide to that group. So as you can imagine, working for a very small nonprofit, at that time I was making $25,000 a year, and I was super psyched, trust me. I was like, yeah, it was just, you know, it was a lot of money for me back then. So I was like, yeah, this is awesome. Walk all the way up, it was a walk up to a 4th floor of a building there, and, you know, I would have a few participants that would come trickling in, and we would just have some punch. We had a little bit of money to get some punch so they could at least have something to drink and some water. And I was just like, this is not enough. If I need to get people to come in and come in the middle of the day, in my mind, I was like, why don't we have money for food? And so in my infinite wisdom and experience in the food service industry, McDonald's, way back in the day, I know that fast food joints have a lot of extra food. And I know that they throw it out. And so just so happens that across the street on 149th Street, there was a KFC there. And I was like, I'm just going to walk over there and ask them, can they donate some chicken? So I walked across the street, and I said, you know, I asked to speak to the manager. I said, you know, would you guys be willing to donate some chicken? We have a support group for people with health issues. You know, it would be great to have like a small bucket. And the manager was like, okay, but you have to write me a letter. And to the company, to the corporate, and all that jazz. And I was like, really? Because I know you just dumped this stuff in the bag at the end of the day. But I was like, all right. So I went back to my office, used our shared computer, because this is bare minimum office, and I proceeded to write a letter, my very first letter to ask for a donation. And I said why we need it, the importance of it, and how it was going to help the community. And this is me right out the back just saying, thinking of a story to say why this is important. And it was a true story. you know? And so I walked back over. I gave it to the manager. He's like, okay. He says, every week you could come here and we'll give you, we'll give you 2 buckets and a whole bunch of sides and drinks. I was like, awesome. So I was like, this is so cool that I'm just from just a little bit of effort, I was able to bring not the best nourishment, but something that would entice the community to come in, get a free meal, and participate in the activities that we were providing to them. And that made me really happy, and it made the people that were coming into our organization excited and happy. Fast forward 5 more years later, and the way that people normally get into grants is if you do work for a nonprofit, more often than not, these organizations are grant funded, or they have some sort of funding coming in, right? So you get your job, you're excited, you're making some more money, you're here to help people make change in the world, and now you're dealing with a program that is grant funded, and those grants have obligations to fulfill. And so although you may not be fundraising, the work that you're doing there is contributing to the work that the agency promised these funders to fulfill for the money that they receive. So I have a little bit of tenacity, well, at least when I was younger, and I kind of helped my director write those reports to the funders. This is how I got my feet wet. This is many years ago. And she was like, I hate writing these reports, and it's because the reports ask for accountability for the money that you're trying to receive. So I was like, I'm happy to write the report, sit in front of the computer and just write a story about what we were doing and how we were impacting the community. So that's how I got my foot wet the second time. And so every month I would help create the monthly reports for our sponsors. And every year I would help create those reports. And every year when they would come in, the sponsors would come in to audit us and review what we were doing and meet some of the clients and the participants. I was there spearheading it with my director, to the point that I would do so well that they asked me, the agency I was working for, and at that time I was working for an LGBT program. I was running a youth support system program for HIV and AIDS prevention in Washington Heights. I loved my program. I loved my youth. A lot of hours, a lot of hard work, but it was something that I believed in. So the agency asked me, there's a CDC grant happening. We need help. We want to try to apply for funding to do HIV testing in northern Manhattan. So the only place that you could get HIV testing at that time was at Presbyterian Hospital. And so what we were proposing is a program to do grassroots on the ground with people literally walking the streets offering HIV testing ad hoc right there. And so I was like, yes, I could write a proposal that says we could do that, and how that would help the youth, how that helped the Latino community in Washington Heights. I said, I'll give it a try. So they were like, great, here you go. And so they gave me a stack of paperwork of instructions galore of what we had to do to apply for this money. And I literally sat there and I wrote that story. And that story consisted of who our community was, what their needs were, what our experiences in that community. So I did a needs assessment. I did research on what statistics on what the benefits are for HIV testing. I wrote a glorious 15-page proposal. I followed all the instructions, which was very difficult, especially at the time because nothing was computerized and like how it is now. And we proceeded to win the highest federally funded project in Washington Heights at that time outside of Presbyterian. Was $1.2 million for a small nonprofit agency. And at that point, I was sold. I was like, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to do to help people. I liked the one-on-one, but I was like, I like to be able to help larger. And so from that point on, I moved up and I started working. My last big work was at that time was working with Martha Stewart. She donated her office space downtown Manhattan for us to hold a gala to help women and children. I met Jane Fonda. I've worked with Gloria Steinem. I mean, I have been in contact with many people, their personal emails and then their people's emails. And so I've had an opportunity to work in all sectors of fundraising development, from asking for chicken, for trying to get HIV testing into a community from the government, to state and city federal funding, to the Kellogg Foundation, to sitting in a salon of one of our board members as she's getting her nails done in her penthouse apartment, waiting for her to cut me a check for $25,000 to put towards the causes that we were fighting for. So I have a lot. On that note, I really want to get to know who each of you are. So if you could just say your name and what brings you here, and if you have any experience at all in fundraising and development. And I'll walk around.
Hi, my name is Emerlicia Taylor. I'm a nurse at Lincoln Hospital in the Bronx on 149th Street, but I have no experience in fundraising. Not.
What do you want to get out of here today?
So I would like to learn more about like grant writing to help the community in which I currently serve.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Althea Seaborn. I'm actually on sabbatical right now. I'm teaching at community college in Connecticut, and past life was a prosecutor. I have never done the fundraising at all. Would love to learn how to do it because I'd like some reform, criminal justice reform, making it happen, and you need the money and.
Yeah. Need money to make change, right? Yeah.
Hi, my name is Ria Montez. I work on the Google for Education team, and before I was at Google, I was a grant writer. So I've been a board of director. I've worked with an organization called the Gathering for Justice. So community organizing and grant writing kind of like go hand in hand because you need money to make things happen. So with my organization that I work with, FPU.Cry Foundation in Newark, we got victims of crime federal money. So that's $275,000. So that. We're doing a lot of like mental health, and it's just a good refresher to be around like folks. And I hope to just continue to do like grant writing work with other organizations, branch out. Yeah. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Janti Murthy. I'm an artist, but moving in the part of an activist. I work with a very niche community, and in fact, did a couple of interventions in the community. It's with the Hindus in America, and trying to see how organizations can be more inclusive of youth and their education in schools, and even for adults on what they need to learn. It's a very controversial group, so I'm here to learn more on how to, even though it's so controversial, and how do I get funds for it. But for one of the projects, I did get a fund from NISCA 2 years back. Yeah.
Hi. Hello. Oh, okay. My name is Celine. I'm first year master's student here in TC. I don't have any experience in fundraising, but I'm always interested in having or building a foundation in the future to help more adults, like returning adults, to come back to school, or people who really need help with financial, aid would be much helpful for them. And because in my culture, we don't really say out loud like how to raise funds, seek money, but I think funding capital is so important. Not only focusing on a commercial side, but the nonprofit side. So thank you.
Hi, I'm Shabina, and I am a second-year master's student as a school counselor. I have not done much work. I've worked with organizations that do a lot of funding, but I have personally not gone out and worked for it. I'm coming in with an open mind. I don't have a specific agenda. I just want to see what this is about.
Hi, I'm Shanice. I'm a first-year master's student here. I'm studying psychology with a concentration in spirituality. And I'm here because I have a couple interests. One is my long-term vision is how can we bring psychology and mental health to people with lower income? Because I think it's really sad that the people who need mental health support cannot access it because it's just not affordable, it's not accessible. So that's my vision for being here. And also just I want to create spaces where holistic health is more normalized, where right now I feel like in our society it's like mental health is over here and spiritual health over here and physical health over here. And I feel like if we can combine those things together and people can just develop holistically, I feel like that can make a big impact.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Robert Lewis Charles, recent grad in the SMBI program, the Spirituality and Psychology program. I launched my own wellness practice, and so I'm really thinking about ways to get more funding to build business, but more importantly, as I get out into the world and field and talk with others, recognizing there are lots of gaps to support communities and to support people who look like me, who need this kind of work. So, thank you.
Hi, I'm Paloma. I work with an amazing woman named Shafiati Garcia, and she invited me here. And she's working on building her own line of sazon and adobo so she can sustainably fund her food advocacy work. So I'm here learning from her, and yeah, if you want to reach out to her, let me know.
My name is Caroline. I'm finishing a master's here in TC. I am interested in, I guess, providing or finding a way to find services and support for students with low income, students of color with low income. Basically trying to deal with invisible disabilities and try to stop the school to prison pipeline.
Hi, Hi everyone. My name is Shavana. I'm currently an ed policy student here at Teachers College. I came to this session specifically because I'm bad with money in the sense that when I want other people's money, I don't know how to ask for it. And so I'd like to find ways to understand how I can better get people behind the causes that I care about and get their coins. So yeah.
That's so funny. You're bad with money. A friend of mine just the other day said to me, so you do fundraising development. Do you like money? Do you just sit at your desk and go like this with money? I'm like, no. I said, my budget situation is a whole other ball game. And then she was just like, what happens when you get big checks? I smile when I look at them and then I pass it on.
Hello, everyone. I'm Shawnee Young. I am a neuroscience student here at TC. I have done grant writing for small nonprofits, faith-based nonprofits, and now I'm just trying to learn a little bit more about fundraising on the larger scale outside of grants that are given to us, but like personal big donors. And so hopefully this will allow me to learn some of that.
Hello, everyone. My name is Charmaine, but I go by my nickname Cha-Cha. I am an applied physiology or exercise science master's student here at TC. My previous experience is probably just majority in undergrad, where I was partnering with organizations to help fundraise for student-led scholarships, and also working with my church on community initiatives such as like raising money for events surrounding homelessness. San Diego has like the largest veteran homeless population, so that was pretty much most of my work. I just really want to learn. I'm very open-minded, kind of to tag along or echo what Shavana said. I just don't know what I don't know, and so that's what I'm here to learn.
Hi, my name is Monica. I'm at TC also, and I'm in the Education Technology program. Got more interested to learn about funding and grant writing from my previous experiences. I was like working in an ed tech firm in the summer. They're for-profit, but they relied on impact investing. And I'm now also doing a consulting project with a charter school network that relies on a AmeriCorps grant. And it's really different. And I just want to learn more about the back end process of it. I'm interested in the longer term, maybe to go into like nonprofit board consulting or being an advisor. So I really want to learn about all these different, facets. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kalima. I'm here at TC with the Kingston Center Private School Leadership Program. I've been in the classroom for 20 years and now recognizing that the impact that I want to have is beyond just being in the classroom, but I'm not sure what that looks like, whether that involves working with a nonprofit or continuing to work in schools. So I'm hoping to just get some more information and perspective about that. I have no experience with grant writing.
Hi everyone, I'm Steph. I'm a first year master's student in the clinical psychology program at TC. I have no experience in grant writing or fundraising for that matter, but I'm really hoping to start a nonprofit soon. I'm really interested in cross-cultural discussions about body image issues, and I really want to work with youth, particularly in places where these conversations are particularly stigmatized. So I'm from Hong Kong originally, and I really want to galvanize efforts in that space to bring youth from different schools together and hopefully have a good and constructive conversation about that. So I would just really love to learn from everyone here and see what's possible. Yeah, thank you.
Good morning, I'm Karen. I am a 10th year self-contained special ed classroom teacher, and I'm also interested in moving on to have a larger impact. And as part of that, I'm a master's student in the K-12 education policy program here. I have no experience whatsoever with fundraising, and I think this is just a really important skill set to have.
Hello, good morning, everyone. My name is Corey. I'm currently an MA student in higher and post-secondary education. I'm hoping to return back to my hometown, Chicago, next year upon graduating and work in some capacity in advancing youth who look like me in higher education in some capacity. So I'm here to learn. The only fundraising experience I have is selling popcorn as a Boy Scout. So.
Hello all, my name is Fernanda Diaz. I am a second year doctoral PhD doctoral student here at TC in Anthropology and Education program. I am also the current president of the Society for Anthropological Studies, which is much the reason that I'm here for, learning how to fund for this specific reason. Well, I have experience with executive project management and educational project writing and budget formulation for different governmental levels from local to federal back in Brazil. So I want to learn how to do what I already kind of know, but now in a new context and with new rules and other actors. And I think one thing that is very important for me is to know how to fund as a nonprofit here and how to approach big donors. And I think I am here for whatever I really believe in terms of the educational advocacy that I am involved in as an anthropologist, as an apprentice of an anthropologist, but also as a person who has a huge engagement with affirmative action movement and whatever has to do with racial justice back in Brazil and now transnationally.
I'll just say this with her comment about your experience with writing. Those of you also have done writing and know through the grants and stuff. Writing skills is so important in this, in all the facets, even when you're working with a major donor. So I just want to put that in there.
Hi, I'm Emma. I'm an elementary ed master's student here. I don't have a lot of experience. I've spent a little time in state government, hearing discussions about grants and whatnot, but I'm just here to learn more, so thanks.
Hi everyone, my name is Maria Jose, and I guess I don't have any real fundraising experience. I've recently started delving into that, or the development world, just because I'm tired of at all the orgs I've worked in, seeing problems or seeing needs and then being told oh, we don't have the funding for that, or our grant does not fund that. But it's but those are the needs of the community. So I'm tired of hearing that. So I've been recently asking our development manager to share grants with me. So I've been reading them, or sort of what you mentioned, helping them with donor visits. So I've just been I guess dipping my toes into that. So I'd love to learn more so that we can stop saying there's no funding for that. I don't know.
Thanks. Hi, I'm David Dartley, and my only experience with any kind of fundraising, it's limited. It's just been as a volunteer trying to help solicit some contributions for some nonprofits I happen to support. I'm really interested in urban environmentalism, specifically pollution from motor vehicles. My biggest obstacle in working on that is the non-aspirational job I've been in for 20 years. that takes up all of my time, and I want to learn if I can displace that with this kind of work. And even if I can't, even if that's not a realistic goal yet, just learn what I can to at least get some kind of advocacy going. Maybe start my own, such that like I can pay my own salary, like.
It's just an asset because the nonprofits that you guys are talking about, that you have experiences, and the groups and the communities that you want to work in and that you're part of, they don't have departments that does this. All they have is the people who are actually doing the work, who are working every single day, and then on the side, they have to write these proposals or do these reports, and then, do all the statistical analysis, and then make the pitch, and then it's a lot. So that means that there's a need there. I'm just saying career-wise. So if you ever gain that skill, it could be an asset to these organizations. They won't be able to pay you a lot, but it will be a little bit of something. I just want to say, in my experience.
Hi, everyone. My name is Perla. I currently work at an HIV/AIDS nonprofit, actually. I actually do work from a harm reduction perspective. So I work with people who use drugs primarily, and I'm responsible for our grants that have to do with hepatitis C work. The reason I'm here is because I'm looking to start my own nonprofit. So definitely a skill I feel I need to have.
Hi, I'm Steven. I'm a machine learning researcher at NYIT. In the past, I've run several different student-run nonprofits focusing on LGBTQ advocacy, as well as tech and media consultancies for other nonprofit organizations. So primarily the fundraising experience that I have is through special events and donors. I do also have grant writing experience for my research, but that's more scientific based, even though my research does help marginalized communities. So I'd like to learn more about grant writing for organizations, and that's like the big reason that I'm here. I'd also like to learn how to sort of build a donation network of donors, if that's among the things that we'll be learning here today. Yeah, that's me.
Welcome, everybody. So, in now learning a little bit. Oh, you? Yes, absolutely.
Hi, I'm Katie. I'm in the elementary education program, and I don't have any fundraising experience, and I just would like to know where to start and just learn, like others have mentioned, what we don't know.
Welcome, and thanks for helping out. So again, I'd like to welcome everybody, and now that I know just a little bit about each of you, I want to also encourage you, because even though I have a lot of experience, the thing is that things change like this in fundraising and development. It changed. There are standards that are still applied, when you grant write, there are structures that are still applicable. But things change constantly, especially with technology, with the advent of technology and social media. It's not like how it was when I was 20-something or 30-something. So I encourage you, whenever anyone asks for a question, please take your experience and please jump in at any moment and help answer the question, because as far as I'm concerned, we're all experts in our fields and in our communities of which we're part of, okay? So on that note, let's just go over really quick the basics. Do I just press the button? Yeah. Okay. All right. So this is in general. These are some of the types of funding sources. You have individual donors, so that could be philanthropists or major donors. You have crowdfunding. You have grants. internal structures, and what I mean by that is board of directors, trustees, as well as employees, special events, and campaigns. But before you even do any of these things, what do you think that you have to know? And when you're trying to fundraise money, you're trying to decide which one of these things you want to do. Go ahead. What you're advocating for. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. If I had prizes, I would give you one. Yes. Because I had to think about this. I was like, when I was structuring, I'm like, what is the, because, you know, it's one thing if you know already, being like, no, how do I break it down? You need to know what you're advocating for. You need to know the details. You need to know it backwards and forwards. That elevator pitch is very real. Go ahead. Yes. Yes, so knowing your organization and the disparities. I completely agree. Oh my God, this is so cool. Okay, good. No, I'm just saying because I was like, I don't know if they're going to get this. But yes, lo and behold. So before you begin, you need to know who you are. You being the organization, the advocacy that you're trying to do. What is your mission? And who is part of the organization and advocacy work that you're doing this with? So who are you partnering up with? Who's teaming up with you? Those people, just like yourself, have a wealth of background behind you, and that is an asset. That's an asset not only for when you work with them on the day-to-day, but it's an asset when you're trying to also promote that person. And I say that working here at Columbia because we push out a whole bunch of proposals. And a large portion of, or a part of the proposal is the sponsor wants to know who are you partnering up with? Who is on that team? So every person that you work with, whether they're just volunteers, if they're paid employees, their credentials and their experience, individual experience is an asset to whoever it is that you're trying to reach out for funding. And what has been achieved thus far? So if you are doing work in the community, what have you been able to achieve thus far in that work? What has the organization that you have been a part of or who you're helping to get money for, what have they done so far? And who have they impacted? Just along the lines of what you just said. Where had your impact, where is your impact at? So the location and the area. And who have you partnered and collaborated with? So not only the people who's working with you, but other organizations. So for example, GMHC works with the LGBT Center downtown. There's collaborations all over. And when you're writing for a proposal or you're trying to get funding, sponsors actually want to see who you partner with. They don't want to see a lone wolf. I mean, because even the big ones out there, you know, they have a lot of money, they have a lot of experience, they may have a whole development department, but it's not all about you. It's a collaborative effort to make change in the community. So people want to see that, the sponsors want to see that, because that means that you're networked in, that means that you're connected in areas that you may not be centralized in one area. So if you're in the Bronx and you're trying to do work in Manhattan or in Brooklyn and Queens, what organizations are you reaching out to over there? So collaborative work is crucial when you document that, when you're trying to speak to sponsors and to donors. And then know your reach. So realistically, what are your goals and how far can you reach realistically? Those of you who want to start your organizations, I know you're like, I want to help everybody. I want to help my whole town. Well, it may just start in a single classroom, and that's okay. You need to be realistic, because if you overreach and overpitch when you're speaking to a sponsor, they're going to see that, because A, you're not going to have the data to back it up. And if they even take the leap to fund you and you're not able to fulfill, that'll set you back more than anything else. So it's about being realistic. Then you need to assess, just like what you were saying, what are your needs? What are the barriers that you're facing in the group that you're trying to help, with disabilities, with health prevention issues? What's the estimate cost to achieve those particular goals for those barriers and things that you're trying to reach for? So for example, let me see. I'm just going to use my example. So way back when I was, when we got our first CDC grant, it was enough for us to do groundwork. So we were able to, I mean, we were doing testing in clubs in the middle of the night. We were going to balls. I mean, we were in check rooms. We would connect with a lot of organizations and bars and stuff like that, and they would give us a space in a check room to be able to test people right there on the spot. So, I mean, it was really on the ground what we were doing. But then we had the vision of let's get a van so that we could travel far and that people could be in a safe little enclosed space. And so we were just like, okay, what would it cost to get a van to do that? Because you have to know some of these numbers and figure those things out for when you are soliciting for support. And then prioritize your funding means, because that means, I mean, realistically, if you're trying to start an organization, you're trying to help, there's a lot out there. You need money to even house the space that you guys are in sometimes, right? For the rent that has to be paid, for there to be snacks for when the youth come in after school and they're volunteering to help, like from the small things to the big things. But you have to prioritize what's most important and what, again, you can achieve with the funding that you're able to get. All right, so now we're going to work on the pitch. So when I mean by the pitch, I mean you got to create the story. So I'm a good storyteller in terms of my writing. So I have to tell the reasons why we need this money. And you do that by creating a story. And you first do that by creating a story. You first have to identify what the problem is. You have to frame your problem, your advocacy is attempting to impact. So it's wording it in a way that sponsors are going to respond to it and say, hey, we believe in this cause. Let me see how I could tell why it's important. So we got to first, who's being affected? It may sound really basic, but believe it or not, if you skip over these things, then the person who's reading your information and trying to determine, yeah, I want to give you money, and reading that email, or as you even speaking to them, if you don't know this, then it's going to be a problem. Then the legitimacy that you're trying to advocate for yourself to get the funding won't be there. And what is the magnitude of this problem? When does it occur and under what circumstances? Like, what are the anomalies? What's happening in the area? Are there other external constructs impacting that community that you're trying to help and impact? Where is this issue occurring? Is it only a certain block area, or is it this whole neighborhood, or is it just, you know, down the street on that corner? Why is this happening? What is it that you can determine that this is happening? Have you spoken to people in the community? Have you got stakeholders to say, come in for an evening, come talk to us. What is it that you're seeing that we're not seeing here from our end? Don't make the assumption that you know everything about your community or the community that you're working in. Invite stakeholders in, people who are actually part of what's happening there. And how do you even know there's a problem? Where's the evidence? Where's the evidence that you're not only viewing? What is the evidence that you're seeing, statistics that's going on and that's being reported in the news? What have other people have done studies in that area? So it's a lot of information gathering, not only from what you see and understand, but what you're gathering from external sources. And then how will your advocacy work and make a difference? And if you guys have any questions throughout this, just jump right in. So now, once you start pinpointing these details, you need to start thinking of objectives. So this is all trying to formulate your story. So what is it, if I know these things, what are now my objectives? You have to make sure that they're SMART, which means that they need to be specific, measurable, achievable. Again, it's about being realistic. And time reference, meaning that you can't say, you know, I want to cure all of X, you know, yes, but what are the baby steps that you aim to get to that point that you want to help incrementally your community or the target population that you're working with? So how are you going to do that? So these are called process objectives. How will you attempt to accomplish the change that you're trying to have in that community? And why, again, do you feel your approach will work? What is the supporting data? The supporting data would be, again, experience the organization has done already that's similar to that, or that you've read that's been working, let's say, in Chicago, and you want to apply it here in New York City. So where's the data that supports what you're proposing to a funder, to a donor, to someone who you're speaking to who's of influence. Say, how do you know what you're going to bring to the table and what you're asking money for is going to make a difference? I'm sorry, as much as the person may like you, they want backup information. They do. Because it's money, it's a lot of money, whether it's $1,000 or $1 million. People want the sponsors, whether it's the individual person, the person donating $2.99 a month, the person donating $1 million or $5 million. They want accountability for the hard-earned money that they either earned or help earn for the company that they're working with. Yes. I'm gonna say this. What we're doing is we're painting and we're creating a story and a big picture here. One aspect is not necessarily going to make or break you, but it's the entire painting. It's part of the portrait that you're painting for the sponsor, for the individual person that you're asking money for. Okay? So it's not to say if you leave something out, let's say you have absolutely no experience doing this, there's no other studies out there that say this intervention is going to work. If we bring clothing to these group of women, that they're going to find jobs right away. Like there's no, that's never been done before. You haven't found anything on it. That's a possibility. But then that example is an example why you need money to do this, to see if it will work. So even if you are missing data and information, proof that your work in the community to do X kind of impact has never been done, that in itself is a pitch of why you need money to see if it will work, because no one has ever tried, and maybe this one time it will work. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. I don't know, does somebody else want to answer that? Go ahead.
Solicit money from a foundation, then you would have to go through their administrative process, which is grant writing. And
you have to be an ORG, or you can just say I'm an individual. I'm starting this movement, and this is the whole plan. You have everything charted out.
I mean, you can definitely do that as an individual, but you just don't have the tax cut if you don't have the status.
So just so I can make sure I understand this correctly, you're asking whether if you have no background at all and no backing of an organization, but you want to start something and get funding to start a movement? Yes. I mean, I think you're right. I mean, this day and age, again, because of technology and social media, a single person prospectively can make a difference. It's a slow start, or it could be a quick jump, but it's going to take some effort. And to get money behind it, you could get individuals. This is where crowdfunding comes into play. This is where opening up to the broader, wider community can impact. But to ask that person will have to know you very well and to believe in you and what you're saying, and you have to be really organized about it. Yes.
I was going to ask, though, how that kind of fits with what you were saying earlier about the lone wolf issue. Like, people also want to see that it's not just this individual person that this is relying on, but maybe that they're part of something larger. Would you say that it's more beneficial, especially if you don't have the history behind you, to try to find another nonprofit that has the values and objectives in line with what you want? Okay.
Yes. Like I said, nothing's really impossible, but it is that much more difficult. It is. Yes.
For example, the organization I was with, they didn't have a 501c3 status, but what they did was they aligned with another nonprofit that had a 501c3, and they were able to receive that funding through their efforts. So that's another way to kind of get around if you just don't have a status.
Right. But at the same time with that, we call that fiscal agents. So to make sure that we get this on camera, she suggested that you team up with a larger organization that's already established with a 501c3 nonprofit status. They're tax exempt. They have the infrastructure internally to be able to handle money coming in. They could vouch for you since you're kind of going it on your own and you don't have these systems in place and even to cut checks and pay for invoicing and all that jazz. But you still have to make the pitch to that organization. At the end of the day, you have to be accountable and you have to be, it's a risk, and you're more risky by doing that. You were going to say something?
It sounded also that you were talking more about like community organizing and that you're like galvanizing the people, in which case you don't necessarily need money to do that. And so like if you want to start by first getting all of those people and all of those supporters around you who are just like a part of the movement with you, then once you have that large group of people, then you can apply to become an organization that has a 501c3 and does all of that. But like organizing and advocacy go really well together because you need somebody who like believes in what you're talking about in order to begin to advocate for them.
Thanks you guys for your participation. Yes.
I just have a question. Will you talk about like how you determine how much money you're going to ask for of each individual like organization, or so you don't like get laughed at? Like
We'll brush. Be prepared for that. No, I'm kidding. Yeah. No. Yes. No. Be prepared for no. This is not happening. No. But we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that in different levels. Does someone else had a quick question? Yes. Yes, and of course, and that's how you build up momentum. So again, you hear the common thread here is collaboration and partnerships with others. So even though they may not be doing exactly what you're doing, it's within the same breadth of it. And so you join together with them, even if you're just joining in on their meetings and say, I'm volunteering myself to help you out. It's just like, it's no different than in social media marketing, right? So you can't tell your friends, after you tell your friends, please like my stuff and follow me, right? Then what? And then you're going to stay stagnant. No, you have to engage online to other nonprofits, other organizations to get more likes, to draw people in. This is no different in that way. You know what I mean? Okay. So I attached a form here as a tool for you to use to help organize these objectives and methods when you're creating your story. It's called a logic model. And so I kind of organized it for you so that you can kind of go home and you can fill it in on identifying what are the needs and how to flesh it out on how to go about these processes. So you'll have this on the PowerPoint presentation. Don't worry about quickly jotting it down. Okay, so now that you figured out who you are, you know what your mission is, you know what your barriers are, you know what potentially your financial needs are, now you need to start figuring out which are the right funding sources for you. So what it should be based on. What do you think, figuring out which funding source, out of all the ones that we name, donors, grants, yes?
I think part of it is like knowing the scale of amount that you're asking for.
Yes, of course. Perfect. Anybody else? Yeah. Aligning with their goals. So whoever that sponsor is should check to see, does it align with yours? That's really important. Yes. Yep. With baby steps, stepping stones, this is something perfect. So one of the things that you should think about before you pick is what kind of advocacy work and or service that you're doing. So for example, I forgot who just said that. It says, does your mission line up with that sponsor's mission? So what are you aiming to do? What is that sponsor aiming to do? So the Bill and Melinda Gates, they fund heavily in education. So if you want to do disability service, it's not to say that they're not going to fund that, but it's not the best bet to go that way. So you have to first get to know who those sponsors and definitely know what you want to do and what population you're working with. So Kellogg Foundation funds a lot of money for women and health issues. So it's not to say you can't go to them if you want to help out young boys in the community. That being said, you have to know what population you're working with and who that sponsor, who that funder ideally works with. And then again, what are your fiscal needs? So if you need $1 million, you could definitely crowdfund that, but you should also be working on major donors for something like that and for grants. And then what is your capacity? Why do you think capacity and trying to figure out who's sponsor, what type of sponsor becomes important? So your capacity and the type of sponsor that you're reaching out to, why is that important? Does anybody think they know? Yeah. Yes, you have to meet the requirements. Thank you. That is so important. Like I said, you could do yourself and the organization that you're working with or trying to create a disservice by overestimating, saying, we're going to do all of these. No, if you cannot fulfill and be realistic about what that sponsor, what that donor is expecting from you, then your best bet is to be honest with yourself. The organization that you're working with needs to be also aware of what their needs are, what their capacity is. So if you're going to do a big camp, if you're going to hold a gala, do you have the volunteers to do that? Can you recruit the volunteers for that? Do you have the vendors set up for that? Do you have the resources to do all the follow-up, all the planning, the execution, and then all the follow-up that comes after that? It's a lot on the plate, especially for small organizations. So you have to be realistic. So what is your capacity when you're reaching out to those specific sponsors? Okay. Individual donors for philanthropists and major donors. It's my first one on the list. So you got to first find them, right? Where are all the rich people at? I don't know. You got to tell me. It's not me. Then once you find them, you have to initiate contact. Say hello. Then once you say hello and they say hi back, you got to start cultivating the relationship. Then once you start developing the relationship between you and that individual donor, you have to start figuring out how are you going to tailor the ask. So it's a lot like a resume when you're applying for a job. You could send a blanket resume out, but I don't know about you guys, but I have like at least three different resumes. One on just grant funding, one on community services, one on health issues. Like I tailor it. Why? Because I want to take the time and I want to make sure I try to get that job. This is no different in that way. So when you're asking somebody for something so big as money, then you should be taking the time out, especially for a major donor, to tailor that ask to meet what they want to do and how it can meet your needs for the organization and the advocacy work that you're doing. Then you have to follow up with them. Ongoing. You have to always be available. With major donors and for large-scale philanthropists, you have to be available. If they call you and you don't answer, that's fine, but you need to get back to them immediately. They want to feel wanted. They want to feel needed because they do want to give, but they want to be a part of the process. So if you're just hitting them up, once a year at the end of the year for your end-of-year campaign, say, hey, Joe Smith, can I have that 100,000 again? And say, but where have you been all year? Why haven't you invited me to X event? Haven't told me how my money was spent the last time. So you have the capacity to be able to follow up with those individuals. And major donors and philanthropists need that. They need that coddling and they need that ego stroking too. I'm just being honest. Yes. I don't know. Who wants to answer that? What do you think? Yeah. It depends on the person.
I think so because at least what I've seen my ED do, it's like she's been working on some people for the longest time, but then others it's like right away.
Right, exactly. It really depends. But at the end of the day, it will take time. This is not like crowdfunding where you see money trickling in. No, this is because this is the big picture. This is this person, X person, I'm trying to get $100,000 out of them. So that's not going to happen this week, next. It may not even happen this year. It may take time. And that's with the nurturing. That's with the relationship building. Go ahead. Yeah. That's the best time. But they're all... Yeah. Yeah. But at the same time, they're also being bombarded by everybody else. So this is about being tactful. That's also. Go ahead. Yes. It's not like, oh, here, come for lunch. By the way, can you write a check right now? No. No. And we'll go through a scenario on that. Yes.
Do you have any advice for searching for prospects and initiating contact with them? Like, let's say you're a smaller nonprofit and you may not have access to like big galas or things like that yet.
Yeah.
Like, how would you go about reaching out?
We're going to talk about that a little bit. Yep. Let's see. I'm going to tell you right now to answer that question, how to find these donors. It takes a lot of digging and a lot of work and a lot of spying. I'm serious. Yes. I mean, just like what he said, he hasn't gone to a lot of galas. I mean, when I was knee deep in development, I mean, I would come home with all the brochures, all the book lists that names everybody who donated, and I would literally sit down and start researching each one of these people. We call that data mining, and figuring out what their background is, figuring out, what their capacity is to give, who they've given politically, who they've given in other organization. It's a lot of legwork, which is what interns help a lot with and volunteers help a lot with. And it's sweat and tears into that. It really is. Okay, so prospect searching for wealth markers. So you're looking at what their potential wealth is. Wealth markers provide insight into a potential sort of financial status and evaluates the capacity to give. So this would include real estate ownership and stock holdings. The stock holdings in particular is public information. There are websites that you can find that in that are free and accessible. Career and business affiliation. So people who normally give or who are philanthropic are normally big business people in big organizations. So either they fund the arts or they fund the community. And so you got to figure out which one do they fund. And you could look at that through annual reports of businesses. Look through those pages and start leafing in who is the ones volunteering within their companies. What kind of money are they dropping down on different kinds of organizations within their companies. And you could kind of get a feel who you should maybe reach out to and invite to an event or activity. Political giving history. You could actually find this stuff out online for free. Even what political party they are in. So once you have a name and you want to see have they donated to a political party and for who and how much, you can go online and access that information as well. So normally if someone's taking the time out to write a check for a political person and you look up what that political person's cause is, if it lines up to what you believe in and what your organization's trying to help in the community, you can make those connections and then start facilitating a contact with them. Okay, so philanthropic indicators. This is all for major donors. So what have been their past giving history? Other involvements with nonprofits. So, for example, someone here said that they were on a board. I don't know who that was. Was that you? Okay. You were on a board too. Okay. Or seen board members, right? People who are board members in organizations, they are involved with nonprofits. So which means that they have the capacity to give. Board members are accessible at the websites of these nonprofits. This is a lot of data mining, people. So you got to go to these your competitors, if you want to call it that, your competitors' websites has a wealth of information from their 990s to their annual reports to who sits on their boards and what companies they are part of. This is how you find these major donors. So yes, they're giving their time and effort to that particular organization, but it means that you're working on the same page of the same or similar cause, which means that they're a free agent and there's no reason why you cannot make a connection with them and say, hey, we're doing this event here. We would like to invite you over because we see that you work with this organization. You're welcome to come. I have a ticket for you. Or come to our street fair. Whatever it is. So you have to be creative. There is no one, there's databases, but there is no one for major donors. You have to kind of find it through these little holes, and you do it by spying on other organizations, by other stuff from your college, from other institutions, from whatever your major is. There's sometimes professional groups. I got you. There's professional groups out there that they donate to their organizations, and it's through these outlets that you figure out who is it on there. You could track down who would be best to reach out to. You had a question in the back? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. Right. And they may not even be donating in their name. They're donating in their family's nonprofit name to circumvent people knowing who they are. So that's fine. Then you go through their family's nonprofit or mini foundation in the name of their child's name or whatever. So it's about being super creative. I got to push a little bit forward because I want to make sure that I go over the majority of this. So I'm going to plug through and then very quickly, yes. Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. It's again, there's no one to help answer your question. Yeah, to help answer your question and everybody else's question, there's no one single database that has all where the rich people at, who can ask them money and how much. It's not there. You're going to have to really dig. So if you're looking for disability services or mental health services, then let's say in the LGBT community, there's Calling Lord downtown. You could go to their annual report and see on their list who donates. You can see literally who donates, the individuals who donate. You may not be able to see how much because sometimes they don't list that, but you can see, and that doesn't make it that you cannot outreach to them or do further digging to see if they're a potential person. Okay? All right, so what do they want, donors in general? They want to understand where their money's going, like I said. So if you ask a donor to make a $5,000 gift to your annual campaign and you explain that how the $5,000 creates 1,000 scholarships for student below the poverty line this year, that's a better statement than simply asking for $5,000 in cash for general expenses. You know what I mean? So because especially if you're on the early on stages of trying to get money for your organization or doing work, you may not have the wealth and the background of experience and documentation of doing all these things. So you have to, instead of saying, I need money for operational support, because that's real too, and I'm a believer in that. Working in nonprofit and making little money for many years, you know, it's tough. It's tough for employees, and operational money support is a very real thing because you need the people to be able to do the work out there in the community. That's just the truth of the matter. Everybody could have volunteers, but at the end of the day, people need health insurance. So if you're helping the community, you got to help the employees that are working in that agency too. So, but before you can ask for operational support, so that's what general expenses would mean. Sometimes at the very early stages of your development, of your advocacy work or the nonprofit you're working with, you have to be specific and say, we need this money to do this directly that's affecting the community that you want to try to help us with. So you have to be specific. And then they want to be able to trust you. And they want to give if they know you. If they don't know you, they're not going to give. That's just the bottom line. And they need to be asked. No one's really going to say, I want to give you money right now. I mean, that's awesome and all, but it rarely happens. You still have to ask. So sometimes people ask me, do you like asking people? I say, yes, I like asking people money. It's not my money. That's just real. I mean, and I know and I believe in what I'm doing, who I'm writing this grant for, who I'm speaking on behalf of. I believe in that work. You do have to believe in that work. I mean, I guess you could fake the funk, but if you're just having a job and trying to fundraise money, but every single agency that I have ever worked with, I believed in what I did, and it comes off when you make connections with them. Okay, here goes the scenario. So you say you're a new development associate and you chat with a prospect at your annual fundraising event. This prospect came over to your institution as a guest of another donor. So there's a donor there. He brought a friend. So you start chatting it up with them. You know they may have some money. So this development associate follows up with a call and say, hey, Joe, thanks for coming with Jennifer to our event last week. And they ask for an in-person meeting. Say, do you mind coming over? We want to show you some other things that we're having over here. Now, they know at some point or other that you're trying to make some sort of pitch. But in this scenario, so they follow up with a call a week after the event to set up an in-person. This is going to help answer your question. After the meeting, so far so good. Yeah, okay. So they came for a conversation, and at that meeting, the person asked them for a large check for their new capital campaign because I guess they needed more space. Is this the right thing to do? Is it abrupt? So everybody would agree that's a little bit abrupt? Yes, no. You should not be asking right off the bat. Not if you want to get real money. I mean, they may say, yeah, sure, here's $100. That's not the goal. That's not the time that you're trying to take out for these major donors. Major donors are not grant people. No, you want to massage the relationship. You want to say, hey, come over for lunch. We're having our board of trustees. They're coming over. We'd like for you to join us because I think you can make a good connection because they work in the same field. So it's not even about the money at that moment. Yes? Yep. Yep. Exactly. Mm-hmm. Cultivation takes time. Yes. Yes. So you might have some people who want to support you with this $50, $100. Yes. How do you know which one? You need to. What were you gonna say?
I feel like there are people that have a lot of money that, like, if they are willing to give to you, they might just seek you out to begin with.
That's true. But you can't wait for that, right? Yeah. No, you can't. But I believe in that. That's true. They'll find you and be like, I saw your stuff online. I want to give money. It's rare, but it does happen. But yes, there are people but you would have done your research. You would have that's the point of cultivating, taking time. You would have spoken to them and say, do you come to these? I would say something like, do you come to these events often? Oh, you do? Oh, where have you gone? And I just would start the conversation with them, having these one-on-ones. Then if the other person, because remember they came with a friend that is a donor, then I will also, since you already established a relationship with them, you see, there's all about relationship building at this level. So if you know them already as a donor, they brought this person over. When you're continuing the communication with that other donor that's already been made, you say, thank you for bringing Joe over. It was really great. We'd like to expose our program and as many people to know. Do you bring them normally to events like this? And they'll say, yeah, they really enjoy giving back, blah, blah. Ah, okay. You see, but this is not like, can you cut a check right now? It takes time and manpower. And it's not easy, but it is doable. Nurture the relationship before the big ask. Invite to events, just like you were saying, and gatherings. Even provide opportunity to volunteer if you see that they're a hands-on kind of a person. Some people are like, no, I just want to write a check and I'm out of here. That's good. That's okay. But you'll know once you get to know them. And keep in the communication, but don't bombard them either, because that's a turn off. You were going to say something?
Sometimes I've seen some large organizations, fundraising, they spend a whole bunch of money to ask for the money. So is that kind of a common thing that you're spending money?
Yeah, you have to spend money and make money. That is just true. It's true. That being said, this is why incorporating them in your events that you're already having for the community is important. You could wine and dine them individually, but more often than not, that ED, that director is paying out of their pocket just to do that, just to kind of make that connection. And if the person knows that this is really grassroots, they're not going to expect that. They're not going to expect that level of schmoozing. It's on high level Columbia scale that happens, right? Not from what I'm hearing over here and not where I've worked at besides here. Do you know what I mean? So you got to incorporate them because you want to include them as part of the family. They want to feel like that they're not just giving money, but they're part of the resistance, that they're part of the change. You can't do that if you're just taking them out to, I don't know, Tavern on the Green or whatever, whatever expensive kind of restaurant. You know what I mean? So take them to where you feed the community. Say, here, we have a plate here for you. We have some community members that would like to meet you, whatever. That's not expending more money. You do spend money. It does happen, but it doesn't have to always be that way. It really doesn't. Prepare for objections. What I mean by objections, for them saying, no, I don't know, I don't think we should do this, that they believe that their gift is not going to make a difference. They don't really trust your institution. They doubt that your institution or the school will be able to accomplish the mission. Misunderstanding the terms and conditions of the gift agreement. So when someone gives money, sometimes they want to have an account. You have to give a report of what happened to that money. So you need to make the terms of when someone says, okay, I'm going to give you $10,000. Is it just a clear gift for us to do whatever it is that we want? Or is it for a specific project or program? And you should write those terms down and have them sign off on it. So there's a clear understanding. And mostly, so you can maintain that relationship with them. That's the goal. Or they're concerned that once the donation is made, their input will not be heard. Say, oh, thanks for the check, bye. No, this is about ongoing. Because remember, if you got money from them, that means you could potentially get money for someone else that they know or the company that they work for. Okay, before you ask, I'm just going to kind of go through this because we have to kind of speed through a little bit. Before you ask, who? Do you have insight about this person? So just before you ask, you're asking yourself, do I know this person at least a little bit? Did you find out what parts of your mission that they identify with? So if they identify with women in your services, then great. Then focus on that one before you make that verbal ask to them. Have you crafted that? Have you tailored it to their needs and their interests and their desires? Like I said, if they like working with children or they want to help children in the community, then make your pitch focus on children, even though you service everybody, even though you're working with everybody, women, chill, LGBT, it doesn't matter. But if they like children, okay, great. Let me show you the children that we're working with. This is what's going to impact them. This is what's going to help fuel and advance their life. And then what are you asking? Did you determine what their capacity, like what you were saying, like how much can they give? And then you be specific on what kind of ask that you, remember, we're talking about major donors here. We're not talking about $1,000 here. So capital campaign, annual endowment, that's a big one. Harvard knows that. Do you have a gift agreement, a pair? So again, have them sign off something when they do donate. And then I have the outline of ask. So I'm giving you guys what's the normal structure of that ask. So verbal ask. Remember, this is not just written. This is a major donor, so you're doing this verbally with them. So you do chit-chatting. Then you transition and calling attention to the purpose of your talk, which you then make it more serious. Says, John, thank you for coming here today. There's something I really wanted to speak to you about that's rather important. So you change the tone of the conversation. And you highlight the connection. I noticed when you've been coming over here, you know, you've been connecting a lot with the women that we service here. You know, we've been trying to advance their job skills. You know, so this is how the conversation needs to happen when you are speaking with them. So again, you're connecting them to the work that you're doing, not about the money that you're asking them for first. Inspired by doing that, you're getting them emotional about it. So anybody with psych degrees here, that helps. Help them understand the needs based on the barriers presented. So reiterate that this is what we're facing. As you can see during your visits here, this is what the community is dealing with. We have lack of funding in this area. So this is why we need support. Okay, the next topic, crowdfunding. Who here has experience doing that? Wow, work. Okay, how has that been in general? Thumbs up, it's been good? Good experiences? Yeah? Any bad experiences with that? Good. Yep. Yeah. It's a lot of legwork. You're right. It is a lot of legwork. Writing a grant is like, okay, the RFP is saying $10,000. I'm applying for this $10,000. Not like waiting for $5 to come here, $25 to come in there. And then crowdfunding takes a lot. So when I said in the beginning about when you're trying to figure out, should I reach out to major donors? Should I do crowdfunding? Should I apply for grants? It really depends on your capacity. So a grant is probably the least manpower required because it's just maybe one or two people sitting in front of a computer and writing that story based on all the information we said in the beginning, right? And then you're applying to one outlet. If you're crowdsourcing, then you have to figure out what the marketing campaign is, where you're gonna house all this money, who's gonna do the follow-up, who's doing the gifts, who keeps on doing posting for it, like it is the social media marketing. It's a lot of manpower. And then there's a lull in the middle of it, and you have to figure out how to bring, because you get a rush in the beginning, and then the middle, there's a lull because people are forgetting about it because 50 million other people are doing crowdfunding too. And so how to incorporate and market yourself so that your need is as important. So it's a lot of legwork. We're going to say, somebody had a hand up for a second? No? Okay. Okay, so in my mind, before you start crowdfunding, or you could do straight up crowdfunding, you should already be, your organization and the work that you're trying to advocate for, you should be already in the social media arena field of having either an Instagram page or at the very least a Twitter account to start building a base, because you can have a big marketing campaign and do a big debut and try to get $5,000 to, fund food for this school or whatever have you. But if you're working from zero and now just starting an IG page, it's not to say that you can't do it, but it's going to have that much legwork. So in my approach is that whatever organizations that you are part of, you should be helping to make sure that that organization is fueling and providing information to the community and has a base of followers that are ready. So by the time that you decide to do crowdfunding, you already have a small little base or a large base of people following you. So you have to build your base and connect on a consistent engagement level. You could try a reoccurring theme. So let's say every Saturday you post up Success Saturdays or something like that, right? So people could know what to expect on that day from your organization or for the work that you're doing. You share news articles that relate to your advocacy work, so it may not be exactly what you're doing at your location or what you want to do for the effort for your community, but it's making the news that this is happening on the other side of the country. Great. Then throw that out there for your viewers and your followers, saying, oh, wow, so it's not just happening here, you guys, it's happening everywhere else, and this is where the need is at. So again, you're building up evidence that there's a need and there's movements happening around you, not just only with the advocacy work that you're doing as an individual. To say thanks to people who have already donated. Promote events. So I'm talking about social media to build up your base so that by the time you try to crowdsource, that you already have a base that's already understanding what you're for, so you're not kind of retelling the story. Highlights. Okay, so these are the phases of crowdfunding. I want to go through this really quick because I really want to put on a video that I found that I thought was inspirational as a video to try to crowdfund. So there's 3 phases. There's a launch, maintenance, and then the final push. Try to keep your reading material simple. I've gone on crowdfunding places, and it's like 3 paragraphs long, 5 paragraphs long, dense, with no indentations or anything. No, nobody wants to read that. No, not really. If you do make a video, try to make it at least 3 minutes long. Testimonials build confidence. So when you do crowdfunding, you should have little quotes from people who you are helping or funders that have helped, and they say, we believe in this organization because of X. This is all content. So I'm talking about content to make sure you have. And content is king. It should be multimedia in nature. So videos, writings, extras, quotes, and stuff like that. Photographs. Okay, make sure your quality images are good. Show impact. Choose natural, not stock images. You got to pay for them anyways unless you lift them off a Google, and that's not good either. So take real photographs of like this right here. So this is a real photograph. This wouldn't be a stock image. Okay, so now I want to show you the thing. So do I X out of here? Okay, so I found this video in terms of types of videos that you can do for crowdfunding. So they're trying to raise money. So I stumbled on this on my research, and I was like, I didn't know what it was at first. I was like, what? But then I got really motivated because it moves you at the beginning. And this is an organization that used to do advocacy work in the community, and they found that there's a trend when you do advocacy work that, everybody's hyped up. Let's say like right now about the environment. And then something bad happens politically, and then that takes the spotlight. And then something else, a disaster, there's an earthquake, and then that takes the spotlight. So all these movements are happening, right? And they're just like, we keep on getting bamboozled. So this organization decided to help all these movements to pick up steam again once the lull happens, because there's so much going on in this freaking world, right? So this organization is trying to raise money to help them do workshops, to help organizations do movements like what you are each trying to do. So I ran into this video. I was like, oh, this is super simple. I like it because it's simple. It could be done on an iPhone. It's very little editing that's needed. I'm sure you could do it in iMovie. And so I thought it would be something that would be doable, that each one here can achieve it. So I hope you like it. Okay, is there volume? I need volume. I didn't even ask to see if there was volume. No, I need volume. Oh no. There's our max volume. Okay. No, I gotta rewind this. I'm sorry, but it's the beginning that makes this thing.
When we started this, we just started with a dream and a group of friends. Many of us were part of different movements like Occupy Wall Street, the immigrant rights movement, and even the global justice movement of the 90s.
And while all of us have experienced moments where our movements exploded, where tens of thousands of people were in the streets, when our issues were on the front pages of major newspapers, we also all experienced some despair and frustration when we felt like those moments and those movements were slowly dying. So we created Momentum, which is a training space for activists and organizers, communities from across the United States to come together and address some of the questions around how we can avoid this in the future.
Momentum is a community of practice, of people that are trying to understand the craft of popular movements in the US and are trying to do that for real democratic change. Now, it's been a year. We have done a lot of work. Many of us are volunteers. We have trained hundreds of activists from diverse communities and diverse movements. And while that is amazing, the reality of today is that we have not been able to meet the demand that is out there. Every time we put up a training, we get double and triple the amount of applications for people to come and join us. And that's why we need you.
Without your support today, it will not be possible for us to continue this amazing work.
Okay, I'm gonna stop it right there because did you guys like it? Yeah, I just thought because it's really simple. It shows them as a group in a motivational moment and showing them using that voice to then display how they're working with others out there. So they're literally showing them doing the job that they're doing. And then by the time it gets to this point, they're making their pitch. If you're listening carefully, they're making their pitch. They're stating what the problem is. And the problem is that they don't have enough money to be able to cater to do all the trainings that is in high demand. So they need our help to be able to help them to facilitate and do more trainings. So they're clear in what their message is. It just goes on for maybe 1 more minute more, and then they have testimonies. So really, they meet the 3-minute mark, and then they just have a little bit of extra. So it's something to keep in mind that's tangible and doable. With our phones today, you could literally just do this, what they just created with your phone, and just iMovie and piece it together, okay? They didn't even have to buy music because they're chanting in it, right? We're really out of time over here, and there's just a lot. And to be frank with you, this is a type of workshop and training that is multiple days. It really is, because there's just a wealth of information. That being said, I don't want you guys to feel shortfalled. There's 65 slides here, and I put 2 pages of resources on there, and my number, my email address is on the front page of this, and I'm more than happy. I work over at below the library in the basement. So I'm more than happy if you guys want to talk one-on-one. I will extend myself to say, just send me an email and say, I'm from that workshop. Would you be okay to meet just for a few minutes? I'm more than happy to do that for each of you here, even if it's just a phone call or email back and forth. I'm very open. I'm not getting paid to be here on Saturday. I'm doing this because I know that the need is there, and I know what's it like to be at the ground trying to find money to make the things that you want to happen to help your community in need. And it's necessary, and there's so few people that have the skills to do this. So that's why I'm here, and it's clear that's why each of you here, and I'm really grateful you guys came. So please go through all the slides. Email me if you have a question. My name is Natasha again. And thank you again for coming today.